Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode. We're here with Joel Stern. Joel and I have been friends for quite a while. Joel's also a San Diego guy, and I'm going to set you up in two ways, Joel. One, would you tell us about you, your career background, so it gives us context? And then just to jump the gun, you are, I think, called a recruiter, if I'm not wrong. So maybe you can give us, like, as you talk about your career, assume that I am like most people and I don't really know what a recruiter is or does. So welcome to the show.
Wow. Well, I guess I've been called a lot worse, so I'll take today. Good to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I am a recruiter. I like that title best, I guess, if I had to think about it. It's about making connections with folks
Yeah.
and getting to know them and helping to evaluate if an opportunity I have may be a good fit or not. And so both can be fine, but it's all part of the process. So yeah, I mean, I've grown up in corporate recruiting. I got my start early on with a big accounting consulting firm, um, doing entry internship and entry level recruiting.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time on college campuses. Felt like I earned or should have earned some honorary degrees.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that. Because at the time we were able to really just identify kind of potential in people, hardworking, intelligent, curious. There was of course some need about specific skills, but it was more bigger picture and what was the potential. And then we were able to put them through some great training and help them really develop. And many people spent their entire careers there. Um, I've shifted around. Recruiting is a skill that is transferable across,
Hmm.
uh, really any industry. So I've learned new industries. I've worked in big law firms. I've worked in
Hmm.
banking, and then I got bit by the startup bug.
Okay.
And my last several roles have been with smaller, early stage companies in biotech, fintech, and some others. And it's really been a nice journey to compare and work with big companies, established companies, and then smaller companies that are just starting out and trying to build and help build the processes to get them to a little bit more of an established place.
Okay. So this, if you've been tracking with Vector Accelerator, you're the first guest we've had that's not a veteran, right? I don't think you're a veteran. Is that true?
Correct. I am
Okay.
not a
All right.
veteran.
I'm not a veteran either. So you're probably watching like, what the heck are these two non-veteran civilian dudes doing on a veteran podcast? What I want to get into today is drawn directly from your experience as a corporate recruiter. We have spent a lot of time on these episodes doing what we call like fireside chats, getting into kind of the nitty gritty, kind of real side of what it's like to transition. What I want to get from you is your expertise, and we're thinking of the guests who are in that transition space. Like I want to get a good job, and I want to figure out how to position myself and win the job that I want. That's going to set me up. That's so. Let me frame it this way. My son is 18, came home today from school, and he said, "Dad, I want to work at this surf shop this summer down in Del Mar. Do you think I should just walk in and talk to the manager?" And I was like, "Oh, I mean, yeah, as a dad, that's cool. Most kids don't do that, so I'm impressed that he has the courage, the gumption for that." But then I said, what's your plan? What do you do then?" And he's like, "Well, I don't want to prepare that part." And okay, dad moment. I'm like, "Well, can I coach you a little bit?" And he's like, "Sure." I said, "Well, in my world, when I've hired people, I want to know that I could depend on you. And I'm thinking through the lens of two things. I need to know that you can either save me money or make me money as a small business owner. I want you to either like communicate and understand that you're here to either save me money or make me money, which might mean save me time. It might, and time in that case might be on turnover, just showing up on time to your work, taking off some burdens from him, taking off some tasks. So I just realized like that's become essentially my like philosophy in a small nutshell of like how do you position yourself to hire. Make sure you understand that you're there to solve problems. You're there to save money or make money, one of the two, or probably both. So I love to ask you, when you think about corporate recruiting, can you start out with kind of like your high level, like what do you how do you mentally think about it? How do you think about it? If I'm the candidate, how do I think about this whole kind of game of recruiting?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in there. Um, and I love that train of thought of, make me money or save me money. I mean, it really gets down to what value are you bringing to the table, right?
Yeah,
And so, um, you got to know that, and you got to be prepared to say it. So I can appreciate
yeah,
kind of wanting to walk in there and not be scripted and just let it fly. But
right.
um, that the saying of you only get one chance to make a first impression is it's real.
Yeah,
And even worse, in situations, people make snap judgments.
right.
So not only have maybe have one chance at it, you have one very short chance at it.
Hmm.
And it could be a look, not even words. But I think in general you back this up to yeah, to be prepared to tell your story. And
Okay.
so, we can get into some resume specifics and
Yeah.
interviewing specifics, but the reality is kind of knowing why you're there and what you're bringing to the table is the
Hmm.
start. And then you want to bring that to life.
Okay.
Your resume may get you in the door. That kind of tells people what you've done. It doesn't really tell them who you are.
Yeah.
And an interview, a connection when you're talking to someone is about making that impression, and that's the goal.
It's good. I mean, I'm hearing the voices of veterans I've talked to, worked with over the years that would say that's what you're describing is maybe their least favorite part. Talking about themselves, selling themselves. I mean, some people have no problem with that, but I'd say the majority of people coming from the military would say that's not something that they're comfortable with. What
Yeah.
have you learned? Like, what's your kind of go-to advice? Obviously, the punchline is go through accelerator, vector accelerator, to get to know yourself, get to know your story. But
Yeah.
but besides that, like, what's your how do you help someone think about that?
Well, if you don't, oftentimes interviewers will default to talking a lot about themselves.
Okay.
You got to keep in mind that interviewing is a skill for both sides,
Okay.
and many are not good at it.
Uh-huh.
Many have not gone through any sort of training. Some of them, it's their first time doing it. And so, you got to know who you're on the other side. You may know in advance who you're meeting with. You may
Okay.
not. You may know their background. You may not. But you can make some assumptions here that you want to be prepared. And so I think of an interview really as a dance.
Okay.
And you want to you're going to be led, but you want to not only be led.
Okay.
And so, yes, it may not be comfortable, but if you're not prepared to talk about yourself,
Yeah.
then you're going to leave that either up to chance, what someone can glean from their from your resume, and worse, that may come off in kind of negative ways, right? Standoffish,
Uh,
closed off, not a good communicator.
uh-huh.
None of these things that someone would say, that's what I'm looking
Right.
for in a candidate, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, the choice is going to be made for you if you
Yeah.
don't want to be an active participant in the process.
How do I, if I'm a candidate, get to know who I'm talking to? If I'm the interviewee, how do I anticipate it? And let's say I don't have much to go on. It's just an appointment via an email to have a Zoom call. How do
Yeah.
I like give me the advice? Like, because what you said really stuck out. Positioning yourself to who you're talking to is ideal. How do I do that?
Yeah, typically, you're going to be working with a recruiter
Okay.
who's going to help facilitate these interviews. And they have a vested interest in you doing well. Nobody wants to put someone in front of another that they think, there's no chance here. No one wants to waste any time and go through that effort. So they want you, or they should want you to succeed, and they want to help you to do that. So they're going to tell you what to prepare for, what environment are you in, who you're meeting with. You can ask these questions if they're not automatically provided. And then you can go out to the internet, obviously LinkedIn and other corporate company bios,
Yeah.
different information you can pull to get a sense of who you're going to talk with, their level. And I always look for the non-professional things to try to make a connection, where they went to school.
Okay.
People put interest, hobbies, anything you can
Yeah.
glean, a little headline in a LinkedIn bio, a picture.
Yeah.
So I'm always looking to try to make that connection as well, and usually there's a way to work that in the beginning,
Yeah.
or even at the end, to add another layer of depth.
I mean, as you say that, that is definitely something I've found myself doing maybe intuitively. So I look behind you and I see a Masters flag. You look behind me, you see golf clubs. And so, we're off and running.
Yes, we
Man,
are.
have you been to the Masters? Like that sort of question.
Yeah.
I see that picture over your shoulder. What is that? Is that a graduation? Like, what is that a celebration? And those are
I,
even
I think that should have been the Jack Nicklaus holiday card from this last year
is that it?
when we went to the Masters. We got to go and meet him and have a group dinner.
No
And
way.
so that was the photo. That's my wife and
What?
me and his wife, himself and his son. And so we joked that this was last year. We joked that should have been the Nicholas family Christmas card. I don't think it was. We weren't on the list to know, but that would have been a contender. So that's I don't know, that's near and dear, and
That is
that's his
amazing.
signature underneath.
That's amazing. So, people, what you're watching right now is us in real time role playing how to make a connection. And I wonder, what would you say about this? Because in addition to this kind of philosophy I've developed of people want to, know if you're going to save me money, make me money, is also like this kind of fundamental idea that I want to like the people I'm working with. And I wonder if, especially in an interview, typically there's been some filtering by then. There's been whether that filtering has been through AI, it's been through like a job search board or a recruiter or even a friend who's like saying, hey, I think you should interview this person. There is filtering going on. And I wonder if like the implicit question is, do I like this person? Do I want to be around them? And there's other questions too that I would curious to know what you think, but like, do I like them? Do I want to be around them? Can I trust them? Can I depend upon them? Do they bring something that I don't have? Like, it's all those sorts of questions. Would you kind of expand on that?
Yeah. Again, so much in there, which is great. We could talk for hours on this topic
Yeah.
alone. But yeah, I don't know the exact stat on this, but you hear that more often than not, people fail because they don't fit, not because they're
Hmm.
lacking in skill. That's a
Interesting.
big part of it. So it gets back to, in a lot of ways, when we talked about interviewing as a skill, not everyone is great at it. A lot of
Yeah.
people do more talking than listening. Um, and so a lot of people just default to that gut feel. Do I like this person? And
Hmm.
this old adage you'll hear, can I have a beer with them? Can I be stuck in an airport with them? Whatever
Yeah.
unless you agree with that. But there's an element in there of, can I work with this person? And some people are going to take that, maybe a little further than you should, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I can have a beer with someone. Like, if we can't get along and actually work productively,
Yeah.
then you're not going to enjoy that beer.
Right.
So it's kind of a, sort of a false test, but people feel good about it, and that's what I know it, right? I feel good, but that doesn't mean that they can do it. So it gets back to, if they're going to go that route, and some people might, you've got to be ready to, have your agenda going in to
Yeah.
say, look, if they're not asking me these questions, I've got to find a way to make
Huh.
sure that they know about me, because they have to go back to the recruiter,
Yeah.
or if it's further rounds of interviews and there's panels, go back to a group and and make a decision. And if they don't have
Hmm.
information, whether it's because they didn't ask good questions,
Yeah.
or you didn't convey good information,
Yeah.
they're only going to have to go off of what came out of that 30 minutes
Yeah.
maybe, or whatever, however long. So you need to help them to be able to make a good decision.
That's what I'm hearing in that is your encouragement to, for me, the candidate trying to get the job, take control, but in obviously a subtle way, not overbearing,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
be thoughtful,
exactly.
be deliberate. And I think that's different than probably the mindset that I would have and a lot of people would have, which is I'm just showing up and I'm presenting, whatever you want me to do. It's a real passive sort of, this interview is happening to me, which is
Yes.
different than saying I'm a part of this. It reminds me of an episode we had a week ago with Dr. Evie Trevino, who's a hope scientist. She studies and has researched the power of hope, which is this idea that
Love it.
tomorrow's going to be better and I have a part to play. I'm a part of making this happen. There's things that I can do. And people with a stronger sense of hope can navigate these kind of like the uncertainties, can navigate and find other pathways to get what they want because they have clarity in what they're going for. So you're speaking the language of hope to me.
100% agree. I will take that even a step further and say, as people are going through a job search, a transition, a period where they know they want to make a move,
Yeah.
sometimes things don't appear positive, hopeful,
Uh-huh.
maybe it go even first dire, difficult, challenging, whatever the situation. I think you need to lean into that. I have
Mm.
found that and when you have think about your day to day. You have a party you're getting ready to go to, or a vacation. The vacation could be months off. I mean,
Yeah.
all these things that could be happening. It could be something smaller, a hike. It doesn't have to necessarily be a purchase or something
Yeah.
expensive. But when you have something to look forward to, that keeps you going through a lot of challenging times.
Hmm.
And the job search can be right up there with very stressful and demoralizing and negative. And so how can you find windows of hope? So
Yeah.
that's always my biggest advice is
Yeah.
stay hopeful, stay patient, stay positive throughout the process. And I had a friend, I want to let you jump in on this, but listen to this take on. He took it. We happened to in the past be unemployed at the same time,
Okay.
and it's happened before, and I kind of get head down, and I'm gonna be in job search mode.
Yeah.
And he said, "This isn't unemployment. This is fun employment." And and we created moments to get together, and
Okay.
we played a little golf, we would
Uh-huh.
talk, we would pump each other up, we would give each other advice, we would cheerlead, we would
Huh.
make introductions, we would just hear each other out. And I'll tell you what, we both found new roles within, I want to say, 2 months. And
Wow.
I think in no small part to the mindset that we had going
Yeah.
into that, and just looking at a situation a little bit differently.
So that's a critical piece of advice from you. What else would you say to someone who's, I don't know, a month or two out, separation of service, and maybe they recognize they've got a couple months. So there's a 3 to 4 month sort of like grace period, a little window. And those, that those weeks go by fast, those days go by fast. But can you kind of give me high level strategy? What do you think are the most important things to prioritize?
I don't know that I would have said this in the past as high up on this list, but I would say start internally. You gotta really know who you are, what you're about, what's got you to that point, what makes you tick.
Hmm.
I mean, there are so many things that you can easily just push aside, let happen,
Yeah.
default to, not think about. And that you may be fine, and
Hmm.
you may be able to progress and find things, and that can be a great life.
Yeah.
But it can also, how you show up, how you for your friends, for your family, for yourself, really. I mean, first and foremost, by taking that time. It's uncomfortable. It's gonna be it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But I've started to kind of do that a little bit myself. And you realize, it impacts kind of the story we tell ourselves, maybe kind of how we define ourselves, who we
Mhm.
are, what we think about, why we do things. Maybe there's a pattern to it that you didn't realize, or maybe it's a different pattern, but you have a take on it that isn't really accurate when you break down, okay, is
Yeah.
that really true? How have so I do think it first starts with digging. And I'll tee that up for
Yeah,
you
I mean,
for
yeah, you're
yeah,
I
yeah.
agree. And the question then becomes, just so I can try this, thank you. You just like bump set spike. So the spike would be, uh, what does that self-reflection look like? And what we've uh, endeavored to do over the past 10 plus years, prototyping this vector curriculum inside the Honor Foundation, is to tailor the right self-reflection. Because just sitting there with a journal and a glass of whiskey, it's like, what, how do you be productive in that? I think that's, most people will turn that into not like narcissism. You just get lost. You get lost in kind of like, I'm worried about this, and then what about that, and what if this? So the actual curriculum of Vector is to walk you through the different pieces of self-reflection so that it actually feels productive and goes by very quickly. Our promise is, if you do 30 days of guided self-reflection, you're going to come out with tremendous clarity, and we can back that up by data. The difference is, or the caveat is, you're not just spending 30 days putting your career like pursuits on hold. Embedded in that process is not only a bunch of journaling and introspection, but it's having conversations, it's reaching out. And I'd love for you to kind of talk about this when you think about your overall strategy advice. I
Mm,
really think, at least for myself and lots of other people, there's something about talking out loud about this sort of thing that for me requires a few reps. And I think I can picture people's faces when I say something that doesn't quite resonate. It's like it's the face that's just devoid of anything. They just look at me like I'm an idiot, or it feels like I'm embarrassed. And I don't want that to happen in when it's high stakes in an interview. I'd rather do that when there's lower stakes, when I'm with a friend
yeah.
or someone that's kind of like in that company but not in the decision chair. What do you think about that sort of like the out loud sort of external processing piece of all this?
Yeah, a lot in there, and I'll just promise to everyone that I'm not a paid spokesperson for for Vector Accelerator. And Scott did not push me to mention it that way, but that's why I do feel it is crucial, and it's a wonderful program.
Yeah.
Um, So, yeah, again, a lot in there. In order to be able to express yourself,
Hmm.
you've gotta, you gotta know what you want to say, and especially if you go back to that, it's not comfortable for folks. It's not their default,
Yeah.
and this doesn't just apply to military folks. There's a lot of people we don't,
Right.
necessarily talking about ourselves. Um, so yeah, you could leave it to chance and
Uh-huh.
and hope that you figure it out. But when you get a shot at a bat, you don't want that to be your first swing.
Yeah. Okay, that was maybe a sort of an abrupt ending. You might be wondering if, I don't know, the episode cut out. It did not. We're actually decided to put this in, break it into two episodes. In the next episode, Joel and I get into a much deeper kind of deep dive into how to position yourself well in an interview. Then we get into talking about networking. And the reason you want to listen to Joel in the second episode, is because he has a perspective that I think will deeply resonate with you, with a transitioning veteran. He's the opposite of cheesy or transactional or salesy, and yet Joel's very effective as well. So it's an episode filled with wisdom, hope, encouragement. I think you're going to want to take notes. So we'll get into that. In the meantime, highly encourage you, if you haven't yet, to get started on the Vector Accelerator course. You can do that by applying on the website, vectoraccelerator.org. And if you're like, I don't even know if these fools have anything to offer, then my encouragement would be to put your money where your mouth is. See if you're ready to transition well. We have a quiz called the Transition Readiness Quiz. It's on our website. It's for free. You can take it, and we'll let you know if you can answer some of these core basic questions, the transition process, you don't need Vector Accelerator. But if you don't, then we're here for you. And how much does the Vector Accelerator program cost, Scott? It's free, except for your time and willingness to do the work. So see you next time for the next episode with Joel. In the meantime, we got blog articles, we got LinkedIn posts, we got other resources, YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share. I don't know, give us reviews if you're enjoying it, and we'll be back soon.